かな。忌々しいヒーローども蹂躙せよ。これは出しちゃいけねえ。
Hey everyone, Rascal here.
And Mama, welcome to our channel, Paws On Animation, and our MHA Season 6 podcast.
Yes. Well, today we're talking about the 6th season of My Hero Academia.
I'm sorry, I'm so excited because this season's action was at its highest as it showcased the War arc and the Dark Hero Deku arc from the manga, while also beginning the final act of the series. No.
And before we start, be sure to like, subscribe, and click the notifications on future podcasts and more past videos.
Absolutely. I heard a lot of different things about this season, negative and positive, but for me, this was a fantastic season. We got lots of things we've been wanting to see in this series. We got spotlight on some characters who didn't have spotlights, and they actually had one episode that I cried the entire episode. And then when I saw it again, Rascal said, well, there's no way you're going to cry again. And then I cried again. So this was a fantastic season.
Right. And this is actually the first time where we didn't read the entire story arc prior to watching the anime, because we're pretty far in, but they have started slowing down the release of the manga volumes in America by months. So people who don't want to wait that long have been reading it online, so they're way ahead. And we got up all the way almost to the end of the Dark Deku or Vigilante Deku, whatever you want to call it, up near the end of that arc. And then we ended up stopping. And so up until after the war arc, we had seen everything. But from that point on, with Deku being by himself, we didn't know what was going to come. And we didn't know what was going to be the outcome. Was it really going to turn dark? Was someone going to be taken out? Everything was still left as a surprise, even after the fact.
Absolutely.
And this just made it even more fun to watch because there were 26 episodes, finally got a full season, haven't had that in a while for anything, of the show. And I think they managed to put a lot in, a great deal amount of the story into 26 episodes.
Absolutely. I think one of the best parts of this season was the character development in every single Class 1A student.
Yeah.
As well as in some of the sensei that taught them. And one of the worst things is actually having a lot of heroes be taken out of the story and killed off, including, if you haven't seen season 6, this is a spoiler, Midnight. I was very, very angry. It was the only time I've been angry with Horikoshi. Why did you take out Midnight?
Yeah.
I thought she was a great character. She loved the students. She loved them so much. She gave her life for them, and I really, really didn't like that happened.
Right. And we weren't sure at all why it happened, and we weren't sure if if he was told to take her out, or just because she was not being as popular because of her outfit and she's, to them scandalous, or we weren't really sure. Did he just choose it to further prove that this war arc, there were lots of people that was cared about were lost, both hero and civilian, like what happened with Voltron? I don't know what was the reason behind it, but I think them losing heroes they didn't even know about would be enough to drive the point home without them to take out one of the main teachers, because you already got a ton of them injured, and it's not like some scrapes and scratches and mild things. Like, some of them lost limbs, some of them were lost an eye, some were burned to a crisp, some were on life support. It's like they didn't play. This was really like a war.
And another one that I was not happy about was Star and Strike. You absolutely loved her when she came on the scene. You were excited.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And we were excited for her coming in season 7. And then, if you read it, you know what happened. It's like, you finally got a fantastic American superhero represented in some non-American, and then gone. It's like, I'm sorry, Miraculous was the last thing to do, and it was really poorly done. Yeah. That's what we had, and that's what they thought of American heroes. Then you got Horikoshi topping it flawlessly, and then gone within a few chapters. It was like, you're kidding me.
So, unfortunately, you have this to look forward to in 7.
Right.
You're happy to be able to see it animated, but we won't be happy to see what happens.
You're right.
So I mentioned that because, again, of what happened with Midnight, it was like a replay of the same thing. Someone I really liked.
Right.
And someone who I think she was well liked. Yeah, he has that, but he's also done other characters that have their innuendos. Like, of course, you know, Mount Lady, and there's so many others. And she wasn't bad. She was goofy. She was just her own person. She wasn't like any other character. And again, she really loved the students, and the students loved her. And the only thing I'm not too happy about is I know that they've got this horrible war arc going on, that no one's mentioned her since her demise.
Right,
so
and you're
I
not
don't know
sure
if it's going to happen later, or if they're just going to go over it because there's so much going on and they'll never be brought up again. I don't know.
Yeah, really don't know.
But back to the character development for every single Class 1A student.
Yeah.
That was Hero in Training. It was fantastic how each one, you could see the growth. And then in, what was the episode number that I cried?
It was when it said Deku versus Class A.
And they each told you how they grew and how he contributed to their growth, and how none of them shied away from stepping out and going forward to let them know you don't have to do this alone. We're not going to quit. We're not going to stop. We're not going to go away. We're a team. We're family. It was just perfectly done.
Yes.
It was just, I cried.
It's like we couldn't even wait to get to it.
I could feel the tears coming down my face. And I was like, okay, this is going to stop. And it didn't stop. And my nose started stopping up. And it didn't stop. And I'm like, I can't make the tears stop. I can't stop crying. And the whole time I cried.
You're right. It's like, man, we ain't even talking about the other. Are we even straight to that? Well, yeah, might as well since we're on it.
And I want to mention that because the whole season led up to that.
Right.
It was
So
really done the way the season progressed, and different things happened in each episode.
Right.
That showed you that it was going to climax this way.
Right. So the first half with the war arc, it was about maybe 13 or 14 episodes, and it showed all the heroes infiltrating the Paranormal Liberation Front, and they're trying to find Shigaraki because it's supposed to be, when he unleashes on the world, it's supposed to be the end of everything. So they were trying to stop that from happening, and the entire time was just trying to find Shigaraki, take down the Nomu, take down the League of Villains, take down Paranormal Liberation, try not to die, try to do this. It was like so much going on. Then it went to they freed Shigaraki because it looked like he was charging up, and they were going to have him be unleashed on a certain day, and he only was a certain percentage done, so he was kind of just building up power so that way All For One would take over him, become, I guess, the vessel, because that's the reason why he wanted him.
Underhandedly.
Right.
He thought he was just going to be the poster boy for the organization.
Right.
And it was always his plan to take over his body, which
Right.
reminded me of Percy Jackson.
Yeah.
And what one of the characters did in that movie.
Right, towards the end of the books. Yeah. And with Shigaraki out and awake, he wasn't at full power, but he was still dangerous. He then had the power to disintegrate everything. He didn't have to touch it. He can just touch one thing, and it can travel and traveling disintegration, basically. And that's how it was getting really scary, because he needed to be near them. He just had to touch them. They were near, and they could still be gone without ever having to contact him.
And the number one hero couldn't stop him. And I mean, he was burning hot, and it just wasn't working.
Right.
They couldn't catch him. Nothing they did was working on him.
Right.
And not only were heroes, but students just being incapacitated or killed left and right.
Right. And then it got so bad that, you started having the one-track mind, just look for one for all. And Deku knew it was going to be absolute destruction if he got to the students, and they were trying to evacuate all the people in the cities before they got there so no one would die. So Deku started going a whole nother way where there was no people, so it would lead Shigaraki away. And to me, one of the funniest parts of that, with a few parts of humor, was, Deku just playing to me by himself, and then Bakugo overheard and then followed him. And he asked him, wait, Why are you here? Shouldn't you be back in the class? Shut up! You'll die without me! Ah, okay. Thank you! And Mom has said he don't want to be away now because of his World Heroes mission.
With Rhodey.
Right, and Bakugo hates Rhodey now for no reason.
Like, I'm the best friend. I'm the best friend. My friend.
He just hates him now,
You're supposed to save the world. Did you see the second movie? It's not you. It's me.
And since they're like, no, you're not going out me, screw you. That was one of the few humorous parts of it. Then after that led up to, unfortunately, the part everyone already knew about, Dobby revealing he's a son of Endeavor, which, yeah, everyone kind of figured that out, but still, what happened after, and then people fell for Dobby even more, oh my gosh.
And the worst part in the series that these people, who these heroes have protected with their lives all this time, turned on them because of something that Dobby said.
Yes.
Which didn't make any sense.
And then,
regardless of what he was saying, it didn't change the fact of what they'd done in the past. It didn't change the fact that every day they risk their lives protecting them. It didn't change the fact of all they have done for the city and for Japan.
yeah.
And just because he made his manifesto delivery
Dance and all
and
that,
all this
yeah.
stuff that they turned on them, I thought that was unfortunately indicative of a lot of what has happened in the MHA fandom.
Yeah, because,
for various reasons.
right, and it was like eerily similar because nearly the exact same thing happened because there's still a lot of Endeavor haters. They say he's a villain trying to be a hero.
Nope.
Even though he's gone through all this redemption, said, well, he's a villain trying to with a hero's heart. That's what they've called him. And with Dobby's backstory, you got the full story from his side, from what you've seen in the show, and Endeavor's side, so you got the complete story. And these people, I don't know, it was like an eerie thing. I don't know if Horikoshi predicted it or if that's what's going to happen anyway. The people, both in the manga and in the fandom, sided with Dobby. Dobby was in the right for trying to kill Endeavor and everything, and trying to kill Shoto. And right, and he admitted he killed 35 people, possibly more, and they sided with Dobby, like they were saying he was right for trying to do this. And I was like, how can you do this? How can you do this?
Someone off and then they want to do that. It was unbelievable. Now that being said, I do want to mention that you had Hawk's backstory, you had Dobby,
right,
you had Shigaraki.
Right, one after the other.
Each one showed you the choices that each of those characters made to lead up to where they are now. Hawks could have easily been a villain when you see his backstory. He chose the way he chose because of Endeavor and him being his hero and wanting to save people and be like him. He didn't become a villain because in his heart, he really wanted to be a hero. Then you have Dobby, who was from a hero family, who could have been a hero, even though he couldn't use the flame powers, he could have used something else or done something else. But in his child's mind, and I'll say he was a child, he decided this is the way he wanted to go. He didn't care what his mom, dad, or anyone else said. He was disrespectful, he was horrible, he was mean, he was cruel, he hated his brothers and sisters, he still does. I don't know how anyone can sit and say he could have, he should be sided with. He hates his whole family. Now even if you decide, okay, well you don't like Endeavor, fine, that's your choice, and you think Endeavor earned what he got, fine. But the mom didn't do anything to him, neither did his brothers or sisters, and he hates them all. He wants to kill Shoto because he keeps calling him Masterpiece. How anyone sides with Dobby is beyond me. That's your choice. I don't get it. He chose to be a villain, and it was obvious when you saw the backstory, he was never going to be a hero. That's what his mom and dad hoped for, but it wasn't going to happen. And then you have Shigaraki, who's kind of like in the middle, could have been a black or white, gone either way. He had the grandmother who was a superhero, and he had the parents and the sister who was cruel to him. And then you had the people who were cruel to him because of his itching and scratching. And he chose to go a dark way and follow a villain who told him the things he wanted to say, who groomed him in sweet talk.
Right. Literally, this is now the definition is correct.
And now he's learning that this guy only ever wanted to use him the whole it's Shigaraki. And I feel like Deku, if anyone here deserves to try to be saved, it is Shigaraki.
Right.
It is not Dabi. Sorry, people. Please save your hate. Don't put your hate in the comments below. It's not going to change. Dabi is a villain. He's evil. And he had every advantage from a wealthy family. Everything he could want. He had a superhero dad training him. Yes, he may not have done it, but actually, he didn't do him the same way he did Todoroki. Now, that's another thing I want to bring up. The thing that happened with Todoroki did not happen with Dabi.
No.
He doted on Dabi and loved him. That was his first child. And regardless of what you say, Endeavor loves all his children. That being said, he had every advantage given to him. Dabi chose to be a villain, and that's it.
That's pretty much.
So I really wanted to point that out, that there were 3 different stories Horikoshi was showing us how these people ended up where they are, and the real victim here is Shigaraki. I'm not a Shigaraki fan. I don't like Shigaraki as a character in terms of being a villain. He's evil. He's well written.
Yeah.
And of course, Horikoshi's done a splendid job in having you to be empathetic with him because of his backstory. But he has been manipulated and used, and if there is a victim, it's not Dabi, it's Shigaraki.
Right.
That's
Which goes right into the, I think it's called Vigilante. It's got 2 or 3 different names. I'm just calling it Vigilante because that's the common one. The Vigilante Deku arc. And a lot of people thought this was going to be the arc where Deku turns bad, or I guess like you said, Vigilante. And people were excited because they thought a lot of people had like the AU where Deku was evil because I guess he went the Shigaraki route. He knew everything about heroes. He knew how to take them down and everything. He'd be a worse nightmare. That didn't happen. Some were disappointed. What the heck did you expect? It's not the type of story.
He's going to be the
right.
You can't say that.
They thought he was going to be
He's my favorite. Deku, I will always support Deku because he's precious.
Right.
And if you can't see that he's going to be the #1 hero with or without Bakugo, then
right.
To say he's going to be the #1.
So with this, he ends up going out on his own because he doesn't want his friends or family put in danger because of the power. So he works with All Might, Best Genius, Endeavor, and Hawks, like his own little secret team. And he ends up saving people little by little without being seen as much and cause too much attention towards him. And a lot of people thought he was going to start digressing and start becoming more violent and being a harsher hero. Well, in a way, he did start digressing, but it wasn't to a point where he started getting like Deadpool and violent.
But he also had the Wilders there to help him.
Right.
And Bakugo.
Right. So it didn't get to he's starting to turn dark and evil. It's that he was starting to get a bit manic. And at first he was doing fine. He had people there with him, and he stayed away from everybody, and they were absent for many episodes. And not only did he have to do this he didn't have to do it by himself, but he started to isolate himself the further along it went. And he was trying to save as many people as he could. And it was taking a toll on his health, mentally and physically. He wasn't resting, he wasn't eating, he wasn't socializing. And it got to a point where it's like...
He was like, oh!
Right. And it got to a point where it's like he needs help, he's not quitting. He needs help before he gives out trying to help all these people at once. And he also shows like a short battle with Lady Nanjin, which became a really favorite battle of the season and of the arc. You had
and also an example of another character. Deku told her you can still be a hero, and you can see she really wanted to be a hero, and she was led astray the same way Shigaraki was.
Right.
Another example.
Right. And you had all these villains from different maximum prisons be freed. All for One freed everybody, so there was
Stain.
Right, and Stain, everyone was running rapid, and so it's been like complete chaos in the whole country basically. And it was really intense the whole time. Even with this few moments of being light, it was intense the entire way, which leads up to the part we were discussing earlier. And I do like one detail was that it was showing like, you know, it's a darkness before dawn. The entire Vigilante arc took place in rainfall. The entire time it was rain. From the time that he saved somebody and took down Muscular, it was raining. And it stayed like that almost the entire arc, all the way up to like the end of the season, which I guess was to emphasize how dark and gray everything had gone because of the war. And I think it was really subtle and really is a great allegory for what happened when you had nothing but sunshine for the 5 seasons. Then you get to this half of season 6 and suddenly it's dark and gray. It's like the opposite of what you see for the show in a comic. And the episode you're talking about, which was like the climax point for the arc, because Deku was to a point where he didn't even sound like himself. He sounded like he was a robot. I was thinking about just save somebody. He couldn't even really think straight. And then Bakugo showed up.
And then after that episode, we got to see Uraraka shine. Lots of Uraraka fans
Right.
have been waiting for that.
Right.
She got to have her moment.
Right.
And it was fantastic.
Right. And with him fighting Class 1A, which is probably one of your favorite episodes now. It even got to a point where we actually read the part in the manga. I was watching it our 3rd time now, reading it, and I was like, okay, it'll be different now reading it. And then you're still crying over it. So like, but it's not even animated. I guess it's the strong writing.
It
So,
and I'm tears. It's like, where are these? This is water on my face.
Right. And it also shows the biggest one of all will be Bakugo.
Yes.
Because for both arcs, it hit defining points where he ended up returning the favor to Deku, saving him, and finally apologizing for the way he treated him all those years.
And we really have been waiting to see this because it had been spoiled online on Twitter.
Right.
It was coming up before we even got to read it in the manga.
Right.
And we really been wanting to see this animated and was well done. And for all the ones out there who thought it was a moment that was mad, sorry. And it was very powerful. And Russ is going to tell you why.
Right. Because one thing that was shown a lot, and it was artful for the ones that did like him, was the fact that there was like light flashing before his eyes. And most of the time from like the cover art and everything, they thought it was a time travel thing, and it wasn't. Bakugo was thinking back to the day where Deku offered his hand to him to help him, and at that time he thought he was showing weakness, and he thought back to it as if he could go back, he would take his hand, because he regretted that the way he treated him all those years. And in parts of way, yes, he was bullying. Right. And in parts of it, yes, he was bullying at certain times. But it was changing as it goes along, and there was indicating like if he could go back and take his hand and change it, things would have been so much different.
Yes.
They could have been closer friends. They showed them, in his mind, they were getting along. You know, he was aggressive. They were getting along, and he wished that he had done things differently. So all led up to him finally apologizing for how he treated his friend, and he always was his friend.
I'm going to add to that before we get to the final episode. A lot of people, for some reason, think they weren't friends. In the very first episode that this anime had, Bakugo himself says they were looking at their assignments for the entrance exam. And he says, they've separated friends so they can't help each other. He was right next to Deku and they were looking at it. They were telling you they were friends.
Right.
They have always been friends. It's been kind of like frenemies at times, just kind of odd. But they've always been friends. And Horikoshi established that the very first episode, so I'm not sure what anime you were watching. I've watched this anime over 5 times, so I'm positive it occurs. It is in the episode, and if you go back and watch it, you will see he established they were friends.
Right.
Now, the last episode, we got to see All Might get some spotlight along with Stain unexpectedly for those who had read
And it was a point where All Might was beginning to waver in his resolve for heroes because of how people been treating them. Even the point where people were blocking the school so Deku couldn't come back because they thought he was the reason why the war arc happened. And like you said, what happened with Uraraka's shining moment, and that was like 2 tear-jerking episodes. This one, Stain of all people, showed him that amidst all of the darkness and all of the people who had turned, there was still even one with the woman, the last one he had saved, that still believed in heroes and still believed in him and didn't turn. And like I said, of all people, Stain, and told him he could still fix things and save others. And he actually gave a list of all of the villains that had escaped, so that way the police could catch them as soon as possible.
And then
Yes, and then had a fanboy lover written about he's the greatest of all and he's his hero and blah 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 blah. It's like you had time to write this too.
Oh my gosh.
And it leads up to, like, I guess more of a quiet down type episode leading up to season 7. You had your few laughs, you had all of them be together again, it was fun, and like you said, they're all a family, and how the impact of Deku has touched them all, which you don't even see in shows, period. This is the first to do something like this.
We think this was a fantastic season. We like to hear what your favorite moments
Right.
were, favorite episodes.
Right.
Let us know what you think in the comments below. If you have seen season 6, comment and let us know how you rate it
Right.
in terms of the franchise itself. And again, the best moments for you and possibly the worst moments as well.
Right.
And
Thank
if you
you.
haven't seen it, you need to watch it because it's one of the best seasons so far of the franchise.
Right. And considering this is right after the World Heroes Mission movie,
Mhm.
you're just getting action after action pretty much. And if you haven't already, subscribe for updates with the videos, favorite anime series, anime shows, and all things animation.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us again for another Superhero Month podcast.
Right.
We're loving this and we hope you are too. And stay tuned because we're sure some of your favorites are going to be coming up this month. This is our best superhero month ever.
Yes.
So thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for watching. I'm Rascal Entertainment.
And I'm Mom Entertainment.
Have a toon-tastic day.
Peace.
And reporters sitting flashing lights, trying to walk around, man, who the hell are you? What you wanna do? Well, man, it's on you. Man, it's on you. With her in my dreams, she was my queen. A castle in the mountaintops, rivers and streams. Plucking sunlight from the sky in my pocket.